Welcome back to JComX, everyone. It's time for another episode of What Am I Playing in 2024? Last time I talked about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC Pass, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, the Switch Online services, and the surprising demo Bakeru. And this time we're going to be getting into even more games that I've been playing in 2024. If you're not aware, this is a series that I'm doing to bridge the gap between my regular uploads, which require a lot of scripting, editing, and animation. And it allows me to talk about some of the games that I've personally been enjoying this year. So take this as something of a JComX recommendation guide, and let's get right into the games. Super Mario RPG: The Legend of the Seven Stars. Now, I actually got this game as a Christmas gift from one of my best friends, which was really awesome, and I was super stoked to start playing it. And I played through basically the first part of the game and got to this section of the game, which is Moleville, before I kind of got distracted by other games. Part of that is because I started playing this hot off the heels of finishing Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which you might remember from one of my earlier videos is probably one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch, so I was a little bit Mario'd out at the time. However, this game has been on my to playlist for a very long time, and I was enjoying it quite a bit. It's got that traditional turn-based RPG element, but with a Mario flair. It's kind of funny to see Mario characters mixed with, like, Final Fantasy characters. Just, you've got, like, a Bob-omb next to, like, this weird, like, eldritch abomination. It's pretty hilarious, but I think that adds to the charm, and it just gives it this own unique personality. It's also really awesome that Square actually remade this game. It gave it a new coat of paint. It looks fantastic. I have seen online that a lot of people criticize the game for how it looks. They say it looks janky, and Square should have done this and that, but I really appreciate that they really kept intact the original style of the game, especially for me, someone who never played the original Super Nintendo, but they gave it a new coat of paint. It actually looks really fantastic, in my opinion. And yeah, the controls are kind of janky because this is a Super Nintendo remake. So I haven't beaten the game, and I can't totally comment on, like, the whole game, but I mean, it's considered a classic Super Nintendo game. This is the thing that started off, you know, Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi, Superstar Saga, all of those games, so the game is a certifiable classic, but personally, I can't totally speak to it. I can say that I totally enjoyed my time playing this remake, and I absolutely plan to go back and finish it off, but I just can't offer my personal experiences with the whole game. So Super Mario RPG for the Switch, I enjoy it, but let me know what your thoughts are down below. Persona 5 Royal. So now we come to the game that completely distracted me from Super Mario RPG, Persona 5 Royal. I spent several months just completely enveloped in this game. So this is a game that had been on my list for quite a while. I had seen the art style, I thought it looked awesome. I had heard tons of great things about this game, and then when Joker was added to Smash, I was like, well, now I have to play it. He's in Smash Bros. He's one of the all-time classic great characters now. But I wanted to wait for it to come to Switch because I knew that there was a strong likelihood that it would come to Switch, and then I would be able to play it portably as well. But it definitely took its goddamn time getting here. I feel like I was waiting forever, and by the time it finally did show up, I was busy playing other games, and so it took me a while to actually start into it. That, and I knew it was going to be a massive JRPG that I was going to sink hundreds of hours into, and it definitely was. Basically, for a good 3 or 4 months, this was exclusively what I was playing. I was instantly hooked by the visuals, the music, the vibe, it's all amazing. I won't go into super detail because part of the fun of this game is enjoying and experiencing the story, but basically you play as the self-named protagonist who also goes by the moniker Joker, who's actually just a regular high school kid that got himself into some trouble over a misunderstanding. Now he's seen as a social outcast, something of a pariah to stay away from and a troublemaker. But as you progress through the game, you start entering into people's subconsciouses and trying to change their hearts, and battling their inner demons and things like that. It's a very strange game, and some of the psychological aspects are a bit dubious, but it works if you allow yourself to buy into the absurdity of the game. I dug myself into this game and I had a ton of fun. Along the way, you'll meet a bunch of new characters, make new friends and relationships, and the story can get pretty deep and emotional at points. The vibe, of course, is incredible. It's dark, it's moody, it's jazzy, it's cool. The main character, Joker, he is my husbando. I have a massive crush on him. I love him. Look at him. He's so handsome. I don't know if I want to be him or be with him, because, goddammit, look at him. Of course, I don't mean that for real because these are all high school characters, but you know what I mean. The way this character is designed is extremely attractive, and I love it. So I had an absolutely fantastic time with this game. I did not complete it 100%. There were some things that I missed, some things that I could have optimized, so eventually I do want to go back and play it again and get everything. But for the time that I did spend with it, I absolutely loved it. And going back and getting the footage for this game just reminded me of why I loved it and how much I loved it. You really come to love and care for these characters. This is the first Persona game or Shin Megami Tensei game that I've ever played, and it definitely makes me want to play more of them. However, I will say that I kind of went about playing this game the wrong way. So I totally muscled through this game from start to finish all in one go. And for some people that probably is the ideal way to play this game, but for me I realized that that is not the way that I enjoy playing games. If you watched my previous video where I mentioned Tears of the Kingdom, you'll know that I prefer more bite-sized, compact, but high-quality experiences to these massive, sprawling, open-world games. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love those games, and I love that style of game, but I can really only do one of those every once in a while because I like a lot of variety in the types of games and experiences that I play, and being so stuck in a game for so long. And with this game, I got to about hour 80, 90, that range, and I started feeling like, oh, I kind of want to take a break from this game and play something else. I've been playing it for so long, I just kind of need a break, but I decided, no, I should just finish this game, let's just beat it, and then we can move on afterwards. And so I muscled my way through, and upon retrospect, I really regret that decision, because I ended up spending 150 hours in this game, which means I spent about 60 hours playing this game after I felt like I needed to take a break from playing this game, which really, by the end of it, made me just feel like I am so ready to be done with this game. Like that last 20 or so hours, I was just kind of playing the game to play it. And that's a damn shame because that's when a huge amount of the emotional impact of the story really shows up. I feel like if I had just listened to myself and taken a break at that time and then come back to it later, I would have had a much better experience with the ending of the game especially. Which is not to say anything about the quality of the game, it's awesome, it's just for me personally and the way that I like to play games, I should have taken a break. And so I ended up really learning a lot about how I interact with games personally through my experience with this game. So overall, Persona 5 Royal, it is a fantastic game. I highly recommend it, especially if you like long-form RPGs with a cool style, amazing music, jazzy, dark, moody vibes. However, if you're anything like me, if you get to a point where you feel like you need to take a break, just take the break. And that goes for any game. And that's just a little bit of advice for any of you who are like me. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So after I finished my 150-hour stint with Persona 5, I decided I need a totally different change of pace. Something lighthearted, cute, and fun, so naturally, Kirby was my next choice. I had originally started playing this game just shortly after it came out, but 2024 was the year when I actually finished playing Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And long story short, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is an absolute win. This is everything that I have been wanting in a Kirby game for years. The first Kirby game to come to the Switch was Kirby Star Allies, and while that is a fun multiplayer experience, this is what I was wanting Star Allies to be. This is the first really 3D Kirby game, and the developers totally knocked it out of the park. This is like a breath of fresh air if you're a Kirby fan. It feels like just what the Kirby franchise needed to get going again. The new gimmick is Kirby's Mouthful mode, which, aside from the innumerable double entendres that you can make from that, is really fun in practice. You can play as a car, or a hang glider, or a light bulb, and each time Kirby uses his Mouthful mode, a new mechanic is unlocked. It keeps the game fresh, it keeps the pace moving, and just like with Mario Bros. Wonder, you never feel like you're just repeating the same thing over and over again. The game is pretty short overall, but as I mentioned before, I really appreciate those bite-sized game experiences. And if you're familiar with Kirby games, what seems like a cute, fun adventure on the outside inevitably devolves into an existential nightmare by the end, and I'm happy to say that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is no exception. The base game is pretty moderate difficulty if you just want to get from point A to point B and finish the game, but if you're more of a completionist and looking for a challenge, this game has also got you covered there. There are copy ability challenges that are sprinkled throughout the game, and while it's not required for 100% completion, trying to beat the recommended time can be like hitting your head against a brick wall. Additionally, some of the endgame Coliseum challenges are extremely difficult and took me quite a few tries to beat. So much like Kirby himself, there's something here for everyone. It's an adorable game with both casual fun and hardcore challenges alike. In my opinion, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game on the Nintendo Switch, and it's a high recommendation from me. And finally today, we have got Metroid Prime Remastered. Metroid Prime needs no introduction. This game is absolutely incredible. If you have not played Metroid Prime, you should play Metroid Prime Remastered. This is the definitive way to play it. The GameCube controller did not have dual analog support, and this version brings not only dual analog support, which is how first-person shooters are meant to be played on a console, but this game also looks absolutely fantastic. This is basically what I remember Metroid Prime looking like back in the day, but then when you go back and look at the actual GameCube footage, it still looks good for its time, but this game totally wipes it away by comparison. So if you haven't played Metroid Prime, the gist of it is this is basically Nintendo's answer to Halo. You play as Samus Aran, the legendary bounty hunter, as she answers a distress beacon. It turns out the space pirates are back, and they're doing all sorts of fucked up genetic experiments and creating genetic abominations that Samus now has to eliminate. In classic Metroid fashion, the game takes away all of your power-ups and abilities, and you're placed on an alien planet, isolated from the outside world, and tasked to hunt down your arch-rival, Meta Ridley. You need to now explore the planet, learning its secrets and collecting upgrades along the way. It is a fantastic game, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but needless to say, if you're a Metroid fan or a first-person shooter fan, then you are probably going to enjoy this game. However, I will offer the warning that I'll offer for any Metroid game, is that it wouldn't be a true Metroid if there isn't at least one part of the game where you get absolutely lost and you don't know where to go. It is not an uncommon experience in a Metroid game to look at the map at some point and go, where the fuck do I go? And essentially you have to run around and look at where you haven't been and where you have been and where you need to go next. Metroid Prime does offer you clues of where to go, but it doesn't always tell you how to get there. And even I, as someone who has played this game before, found myself thinking, oh, I need to go over here, so I trek all the way across the map to get there, only to realize, oh, whoops, I was actually in the right place before, and so I need to trek all the way back across the map to get back to where I just was. So keep that in mind if you're someone who doesn't like backtracking or getting lost in games. Of course, you can always look things up on the internet these days, so honestly, it's not a huge deal. And even if you don't love backtracking, I still recommend Metroid Prime because I think it's just a fantastic game, but it is something to be aware of. It's also not the longest of games. I ended up beating this game in about 30 hours, and for some of you that might be a turnoff. It is, again, another little bite-sized adventure. It might take you more time or less time depending on if you're a brand newcomer or if you've played this game before, but another part of the appeal of Metroid games is that once you've beaten the game, you can play the game again on a higher difficulty or try to beat your time on the same level difficulty, and you'll get rewarded at the end of the game with new cutscenes based on the percentage of completion of your game. And lastly, while this game doesn't cost the full $60 of a normal Switch game, it is a budget title at $50. For some people, that's a lot to pay for what is essentially a beautified version of an old game. For my money's worth, I absolutely loved my time with Metroid Prime Remastered, and it gave me an opportunity to go back and revisit one of Nintendo's absolute masterpiece classics. And that'll do it for this edition of Games That I've Played in 2024. Stay tuned and subscribed if you want more content like this, and remember, there's a new Friday Night Games in the works right now, so there's a lot to look forward to right here on JComX.